Welcome back to the Free Play Arcade Podcast. This is Chris Delp joining you live in Free Play Arlington. I'm going to introduce my co-host in just a moment. First, I'm going to point out we're live in Free Play Arlington. So that's going to be a little weird. You're going to hear things like little bits of music in the background, little bits of blank audio as our videographer just sort of randomly cuts it out so that we don't get banned from YouTube. I know all about that. And maybe some Killer Queen, some yelling at Super Checks, aka Bubble Hockey. It's going to be wild. And it's also meaning that today's broadcast, gentlemen, is sponsored by Order Number 42. You're going to hear more about Order Number 42 at least 3 times during this broadcast. I know you're all excited about it. So, with that, I want to introduce my co-host. As happens many times, it's Community Liaison Arthur Williams.
Hello! I am Community Liaison Arthur Williams.
I am also a Community Liaison, and between the two of us, we have no idea what that means. More importantly, we have the head tech. Head tech? What are you? Senior tech now? I don't know.
Yeah, sure. Lead tech. We'll go with that.
He's the guy who fixes the games at Free Play Arlington, if not more.
Head lead or senior? Which is the highest position?
Senior makes me sound old.
Okay.
So let's go with lead.
Senior
that
it
works.
is.
All right.
Junior lead.
Ancient tech.
Ancient tech with the sweet beard Matt Johnson joining us. We're gonna guide you through, and before we get too much further, remember, you can subscribe to our podcast wherever you're listening to it now, be it iTunes, YouTube, or wherever. Matt does all the work and actually puts, not this Matt, there's a Matt behind the scenes that's chuckling at me right now. He does all of the work and puts it everywhere. So all you have to do is hit subscribe, unless you're on YouTube, in which you need to hit subscribe, and then this bell icon over here. You hit that bell icon an odd number of times. 1 is the easiest.
Right.
But if it's like 3s or 5s or 157, as long as it ends up on, then you get your notifications, and then you can see more of Matt Johnson's sweet beard whenever Corey allows us to have him back on the show.
As much as is possible.
We'll see.
Yeah. So, Matt, you've been at Free Play how long?
2 years.
2 years?
On almost exactly 2 years in a couple months. Yeah.
Okay, so you have lots of cool stories about fixing arcade machines for the last 2 years, and you got into this game a little late. What'd you do for the 20 years prior to that?
Oh, man. I was working for a little video game retailer that I guess we can say GameStop.
Yeah.
I was a store manager of that for a majority of that time. It was pretty fun. I liked it. It was a good access to an industry in a very simple fashion. So.
Yeah, and you're locally famous for that. I don't know if you know it or not, but you are definitely locally famous for being 20 years the GameStop manager in Arlington.
Well, when you've run 8 different locations in a 10-year period, you tend to get known.
Right.
But beyond that, finally moving over to Grand Prairie for a little bit. That was where I decided to go until I found out about Free Play and decided this place needed more of my attention because I like it that much.
Yeah.
So,
no, I definitely feel you. I also left a job of 20 years to come here and do whatever this is a community liaison does at Free Play. And I haven't looked back. I've glanced back and thought, how did I do that for 20 years? But I'm super happy where I'm at here at Free Play, getting to travel to Free Play Arlington and enjoy all of your work here. But yeah, I only brought that up because you have a lot of experience in just gaming in general.
Yeah.
So we have plenty to talk about on that, and specifically what I wanted to talk about was the history of competitive gaming in Arlington, Texas, which I know little about.
It's been pretty heavy, and you have to forgive me if I don't remember names of people from back then, because I wasn't exactly in the headspace of knowing the people. I was really just trying to get good at the games.
Born and raised in Arlington?
For quite a while. I've been here, since 4th grade.
Okay,
yeah,
that's
that works.
pretty.
Sure.
Okay.
Wow.
Definitely raised.
Ancient tech, yeah.
Definitely raised.
So, but yeah, it was pretty much I'd say the premier spot for any kind of arcade experience was there was Tilt in the Parks Mall, which was decent, but the big one was really Putt Putt off of up off what is that street? Pleasant Ridge. That's right.
See,
Yeah.
now I the putt-putt in Arlington is famous in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Right.
For players like yourself and 2D Tony, who's been mentioned on this podcast before. Everybody knew the great Arlington competitive scene, and it was based in the fabled putt-putt in Arlington. I also remember a Tekken player named Cedric, who was always incredibly well dressed.
I remember Cedric, yeah.
Wherever he is right now, he is most dapper, I promise you, or I am incredibly disappointed. I never saw that man outside of a suit, but we always heard that they would play at the putt-putt in Arlington. I never made it out there because I lived in like Denton or just crazy far away.
Yeah.
I was traveling to GameWorks in Grapevine, which is about a half an hour from that.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, but that's already an hour and 15 minutes away from where I was staying. So yeah, another half an hour just was not going to happen.
Right.
I may have made it out to Cedric's house a few times for the Tekken meetups, but beyond that, I never made it to putt-putt. So tell me what that putt-putt was like.
It was good, man. The selection was awesome. It's where I saw the first Street Fighter Alpha, and then moving to Alpha 2, Alpha 3, and then having the Street Fighter 3s get in there. Tekken Tag got in there.
Was there a lot of like arcade cabs, or were they just rotating them in a short space?
They were always trying to cram more in wherever they could, and it was. But it was always a really good selection. I just remember, like, no matter what you were into, whether it was Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, Tekken, any of the major fighters at that time, they were there, and they were there earlier than most. I remember that was the first time I ever saw Tekken 5 hit the floor. That was kind of cool. It was, and they always had their, like, what was it, 10 bucks get you 40 tokens or something like that. They always had like some kind of deal going on that basically made it half price. Okay. So it was really the best way to go practice whatever you were trying to do for the minimal amount of money at that time.
Was it always just fighting games, or was there more there?
Well, they always had a lot of stuff. When they started putting DDR in, they had I remember this giant alien racing machine, because they had a lot of the ticket machines, right? But this big, like, you roll a ball. It was like the size of a bowling ball, and you roll it as fast as you can, and you're trying to get your little alien through the track. It's like horse races, but with aliens in little cars. I'll never forget that thing, because they really wanted you to see that thing. It was right in the front center. It was pretty fun.
I remember one in the Bossier City Mall, just for fun. They would have you were throwing like cue balls into the screen.
Right.
You're physically rolling them into the screen, and then it would like turn into a rock and then fly into an egg or fly into the dinosaur's mouth that just hatched from the egg.
Wow.
And they would wake up like baby dinosaur from the show Dinosaurs, which this is before then. You start pointing to their mouth. So occasionally
18-wheeler was the other big one that they had.
Big rigs.
Yeah, big rig 18-wheeler racing game. That was so obscure and strange, but they had it. It was fun. Yeah.
So why was this put? Okay, it was the token deal. Was it the centralized location? Because this is absolutely known as one of the top competitive scenes in the DFW area.
It helped being directly off the highway and right across from the mall. I think that was location really had a lot to do.
We're talking Six Flags Mall,
Parks Mall.
Parks
yeah,
Mall.
Right across from Parks Mall, and being right off the highway, it just got the attention from that entire like DFW area. People would just come down and play, and I don't know, it's just really good selection, really good deals. That was pretty much what made it good.
Yeah. Do you remember? So there were fighting games. The DDR, was that competitive there?
I guess so. I wasn't really in the DDR scene because that was kind of coming towards the end of of arcades being big.
Jam, Midway Sports Games, was that big there?
Yeah, they did have. I remember they had Hang Time. Mm-hmm. I don't ever remember a Jam being there, but I do remember Hang Time being there. And so, yeah, if I ever wasn't fighting anybody, I would go try to grind out levels to unlock mascots and that. So
yeah, right.
That was fun.
Let's see. Was it all were they having tournaments there?
Yeah. Actually, I don't think so. I did run one tournament that we had there just because the manager let me, because he was just like, whatever, it's your prizes, it's your time, go for it, So and it was.
That's the negative space that I live in, sir.
It's
so
great,
I know.
and it's awesome. But they also had a game called War Final Assault. And they had 3 cabinets set up when it could have been 4, but 3 was good. You can still have a good time with it. And yeah, I actually thought up a little points system on how to do a tournament on a 3-player game, because that was kind of like, what? How do you do 3-player?
Yeah, you have to have a triangular bracket,
Right,
which is
yeah.
really hard to find triangular paper to be friendly to that. Don't ask me why I know this.
Yeah, but it was fun, and yeah, a lot of those war guys, man. There was always like a top 4 or 5 that just these guys could only beat each other, and no one below them could ever even touch them. But it was really fun. It really got down to the wire, and yeah, I had some cheap prizes and stuff that I threw out for him.
Arthur, do you remember War Final Assault? Did you play this game?
I have never seen the game before working and operational, but I do remember seeing War Final Assault turned off at a local skating rink in my hometown.
Gotcha.
Oh, sad.
And you've definitely seen it in the secret lab, like
Yes.
in every single warehouse we have, another War Final Assault. I'm sure you
Again,
can catch that
turned off.
on any of our walkthrough of the lab videos on our YouTube, back in our video section.
Yep.
We are trying, we've never had War Final Assault, with the exception of 45 minutes when you dragged it out there and said, oh, what's this plug? It's on. We're officially waiting until we have all 4 cabinets and the capability of linking them together before that could actually be a thing.
Right.
I really want this to happen. I want to see this game. I think it'd be cool. But
I think me and Matt want this to happen as well, because while you were playing it nonstop at Putt Putt in Arlington, I was playing it nonstop where they did have 4 cabs at GameWorks in Grapevine. And a little background on that game, it's the only, that I can recall, first-person shooter released in arcades.
Yeah, at least the only one we can remember, because if there was another one, it didn't do what this one did.
there was
Not at
Mech
all.
Head
Yeah.
that I recall. That was
Yeah.
like a visor that you'd put on.
Oh yeah, no.
Is
And
that
that
a
was
Mech
not-
Warrior game?
Something. It was not good.
Yeah,
So
there
we
were
could leave
there
it
were a
at
few
that.
Mech Warrior games, and was a virtual world in the Richardson area, I think, or North Dallas area, where the Dave and Buster's headquarters
Get
is
into
now.
like a big pod and kind of control.
Yeah,
stuff
things like that.
Stuff like that.
The BattleTech pods. Those
Yeah,
were really
yeah.
cool.
But
Yeah.
but
Not
War was
quite
so
the same,
different.
though.
Yeah, War was extremely accessible.
It
'cause
was
just
a first-person
a joystick with a trigger and a thumb button for
Yeah.
throwing your weapon down, and then you had WASD and a thumb button like space, like shoot, like jumping. And I mean, it was a shooter. It was a first-person / third-person shooter. You could choose if you wanted first or third. But yeah, no, it was super fun, and it's made by Midway, so they've got all their secret unlockable characters.
Was it
and
Midway or
they-
Atari? I think it's Atari. But the same, they were working together at the
Right,
same
yeah. So and it kind of had that Gauntlet Legends graphics to it.
Yes.
And
Yeah, 3D
so,
engine.
Yeah, so there was all the hidden stuff, and you had to find all the keys, just like Runestones and Gauntlet Legends, and and at the time there was like no information. I mean, the internet was still young, but there was no information for this game at all anywhere. So I decided to get together with my friends, and we kind of deep dived into where are all the Pentabolt keys. We got to find them all to get to the last boss and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, I kind of just wrote all that down and threw it up on Game FAQs, and
Yeah,
said,
so-
cool. So it's still there.
Here we are talking to an actual writer from Game FAQs. And it's still up there now, right?
Yeah, it's still there.
What was your author name?
Oh man, I don't remember. I know I put M. Johnson down at the bottom.
Okay.
Just to
right,
have
so-
that there, but yeah.
Look for Matt's
Yeah.
Game FAQ on War Final Assault. It's really important if you have that at your local arcade, which I'm not sure what would, but
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun back in the day, and I do remember having those same experiences, going through, looking for the keys. Honestly, it was just waiting for more people to show up so I
Right.
could play against them.
Yeah, single player was just a time killer to wait for people to come jump in.
Right, but I want to see how far I could get on one credit, because that's the kind of idiot I am.
Super fun, and
Yeah.
I mean, it had that fast-paced like Quake, Unreal Tournament, that kind of feeling to it. So super
Yeah, it had lots of secrets you could get to, not
Right.
just the items, but secret paths
Yes.
and all kinds of interesting stuff. And then the head-to-head fighting, the head-to-head competitive first-person shooter, it was nothing. It was everything that the PC gamers had seen all the time,
Right,
and
right.
that's why it didn't make a dent beyond the arcades, is
Yeah.
because what the PC was doing at the time, better.
Right.
This was a little inkling of that tossed
Right.
into the arcade, which was not doing well at the time, and man, I was soaking it up. And I'm gonna bring him up again. 2D Tony was a good in that too.
He was.
Is 2D Tony?
He has asked me repeatedly if we can get War on the Floor, and I've
Yeah.
told him I'd like to, because I want to play this game. He's told me, he's regaled me
Yeah.
with his Tales of War over
Yeah.
the years,
Uh-huh.
and it sounds incredible. And I missed it completely. So
It was good. I do remember the day he rolled out to GameWorks, and I There. Take that, 2D Tony.
Take that.
All he had was the
20 years ago.
the air blaster. He was air blaster everywhere.
Right.
So good though. Let's see. You moved. That was Putt Putt in Arlington. It had war.
Yeah.
Putt, you play any fighting games there?
Tekken Tag was kind of like. At the time, me and my friend Jimmy would often stay up until like 4 or 5 a.m. playing Tekken 3 on PS1 because it was all we had. And then I would transfer that knowledge to Tekken Tag, go up to the arcade, and
basically
and
a cousin game.
Right,
Tekken 3 and Tekken Tag.
Totally, but
it might as well have been called Tekken 3 Tag Tournament.
Right, but Tag never had like a console version until the PS2 was released in 2000, and
so it had a good 2 years of arcade exclusivity, something like that.
Yeah, so that's why we had to grind it out on Tekken 3 to be able to move on to Tekken 2.
I remember using Tekken 3 as a training mode for Tekken Tag. You'd learn stuff in 3 and take it to the arcade. And so finally, as a launch title, PS2 was released.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of that training mode stuff in Tekken 3 would transfer over, at least things like trying to do Electric and God Fist, things like that. You know, move execution would transfer directly over, where it wouldn't in other Tekkens because those games were so
Or just
related.
go basic with 10 strings. Like you could just practice that.
And that still works.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
You could still do the 10 strings in Tekken 7 today.
Right. So some of them are the same. I remember when I first started working at GameStop. There was I was just a game advisor, and I was mowing the lawn one day, and my dad came storming out of the house and interrupted me, and he was like, "Your work is on the phone. What are you doing out here? Why are they calling?" And I was like, "Okay, hang on." So I went in there, and it was my boss who actually said that we had a regular customer who brought his Japanese PS2. This is before it was released in America, and he had Tekken Tag, and he knew I was a fan. He wanted to see if I wanted to see it, and I said, "I'll be right there." And so I slammed the phone down and ran up there, and still had my grass-covered shoes on, and went into the store and picked up the controls. Like, "Oh man, this is so cool!" And just started playing Tekken Tag against the owner of it, who I don't know, I don't remember who the guy was, but I beat him profusely quite a few times in a row, and I was like, "This is amazing." But I just remember the graphics being so much better, like this huge transition. Just the resolution was great and everything, and it plays DVDs. That was a big deal for PS2. So
I remember it released the most common accessory sold with the PlayStation 2 was the Matrix on DVD.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
Yeah, it had a higher percentage of sales rate than any of the launch titles.
That was the movie though.
The Matrix on DVD.
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. We are sponsored by the order number 71, not 42.
42 will be along a little bit. Don't worry.
Agreed.
We're all waiting for Order 66.
Nice. Yeah. So yeah, Tekken Tag was big there.
Yeah.
Tekken Tag was your first. So you worked at GameStop for 20 years in the Arlington area.
Yeah.
Lots of tournaments out there as well.
We did a few.
What would make a tournament happen at the Arlington GameStop?
It took somebody who wanted to make it happen. Really,
it came from down corporate, or
it was never really sanctioned. It was never really like you have to do this. It was just more like if you want to do this, help your business, get people in, have some fun. That's what we would try to do. I remember I think one of my first big ones that I remember doing was for Pokemon Stadium. And then from there we went on to other stuff like Mortal Kombat 5, Deadly Alliance. That one was really fun. And then of course, being able to just have all the customers come in, play the game. It's brand new. Come try it out. It's more satisfying that way than having it just in a demo station or something like that.
Yeah. Your Mortal Kombat 5 tournament, was that a day one tournament?
Yeah. That was pretty much
midnight release?
Day one, week one. I think it was like the weekend after it came out. Let's just let kids play a little bit and then come in and play it here, and that also got people who were just coming in for the weekend to see it being played and go, "What is that? New Mortal Kombat? That's cool." And gets people interested.
Yeah, that was. So Mortal Kombat 4 was a famous disaster in arcades.
Yes. Oh.
They moved to 3D, but they had no idea what they were doing.
Right.
Mortal Kombat 5 was the first console exclusive, and they still had no idea what they were doing, except they had saw Tekken 2, I believe it was, or maybe Tekken 3. Well, it was the whole era. They saw Lei and all of his cool stance changes, and they were like, "You know what? We want to make that in our game."
Yeah.
And that was basically that's the end of their their thought process there.
Right,
but
right.
every character had stance changes as if it were Lei from Tekken.
Yeah, well, just one button. Just press L1.
Exactly.
And that would change their stance from this to this and just kind of...
Wasn't one of them, like, equip a weapon for one
Yes,
stance?
the third
that
stance
the
was
third
always
stance
a
was
weapon. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was crazy stuff.
Also inspired by the Soul Calibur series, which is another big release you had to deal with.
Oh, man, when the Dreamcast came out. Yeah, the Dreamcast... Soul Calibur was like the game on
That was the first game I remember seeing in the arcade and seeing at home and thinking to myself, wow, arcades are not as good as home consoles anymore.
Right. It's like, well, now we have arcades in our homes plus, and
there was a major graphical overhaul with the introduction of the
Yeah.
Dreamcast. It was what would become like Naomi arcade hardware, but the original Soul Calibur was not Naomi, I don't believe.
It was on the Sony board. Whatever it was. I
Yeah,
can't think off
so
the top of my head.
major technical upgrade in the background for the release of the console version of Soul Calibur. The gameplay is still the same. Like it's
right. Yeah.
those guys at the Namco 3D fighting game studios were doing phenomenal work back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
The motion capture was off the charts.
Right.
And that stuff, carried directly over, just improved the graphics, and it looks.
I
so much
remember
better.
like the tiny irrelevant details, like on the colder stages, you could actually see their breath.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I'd ever seen anything like that, and I was like, "What is happening around? Dreamcast is the best, everybody."
Honestly,
it was
even
crazy.
like the graphics of Tekken Tag Tournament back in the day in the arcade.
Yes.
They look good.
Yeah.
Like I remember comparing it to games of the era on console, like Resident Evil.
Right.
Resident Evil 2. Had that same style of blocky 3D animation.
Right.
But it wasn't Virtua Fighter where I thought it was like, oh, this is kind of Atari-ish
Yeah.
looking,
Virtua
but it's
Fighter,
3D.
like, the thing that could compare it to most easily, the first Virtua Fighter, is probably Star Fox, the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
Where, like, you
Yeah.
can
Definitely
see
had
the
that.
edge of every single polygon in the game.
Yeah,
This man is made of 13 triangles.
Yeah,
Like,
I
things like
absolutely
that.
looked at that and I thought, this looks like an Atari 2600 game. That's really what I thought when I was a kid and I saw Star Fox for the first time. I mean, it moved. It's a pretty good technical demo for a 16-bit Super Nintendo system. That's an accomplishment, and it's very, very playable.
Right.
But maybe not the best looking game of all time.
Yeah.
But
Unique
then
for its
just-
era, at least.
they blew it up for Dreamcast and released it, and you were part of that release. What was the reception like? Like, did they know when it was magazines? They knew.
Yeah, September 9th, 1999.
Right. Yeah. People who knew.
Yeah.
And people that weren't quite so fanatical about arcades were kind of looking for something else. And I think the something else that came along was NFL 2K. That was the other big one on graphical improvements. It was like, wow, if I squint my eyes like this, it looks like it's on the TV.
Right.
That was kind of the big thing. But that was really fun. But yeah, that was pretty much that era of what was going on. Is Dreamcast was just dominating the arcades because they were taking their own games and just putting them right over on disc. So,
Right. Yeah. Typing of the Dead.
Right. Yeah.
Did you own Typing of the Dead?
I did not. I laughed hysterically at it and said no thank you.
It was incredible. I love that game.
No, I don't think it's bad. I just didn't care.
And that's why me and Matt can't type.
There you go.
Yeah.
You guys should have a Typing in the Dead match sometime.
Hey, 12
We'll
words a
stream it.
minute. Let's do
We
it.
gotta get the arcade version, which I believe does exist.
It does.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a Typing of the Dead keyboard you can plug into a Naomi and go to town on that guy.
I can't say I've actually seen that one. I did go to the aforementioned GameWorks and Grapevine quite often, so I saw plenty of those Naomi Sega games from the era, like what was it, Daytona 2. Sega Bass Fishing was a.
Oh, yeah.
I ended up loving that in the arcade, even though I shouldn't, because it was timed. It was bass fishing, and I don't know how they made that so good, but they
it was
did.
incredible.
They when they sold it for the home consoles, it came with the
The reel, yeah.
The rod and reel,
And
yeah.
That was amazing.
Well, in the arcade set, I can tell you the deluxe arcade setup absolutely had it all, and it was a nice projection screen, and everything looked really sweet. As the game started turning into prestige games, I think that was part of the movement, for better or worse, to prestige games as consoles started taking over for arcades, and arcades had to do bigger and better, maybe not better, to catch up.
I think probably the inception of DDR was kind of marked that end of arcades.
Yeah.
Was when arcades were having to go more spectacle,
Right.
and less technical. I also remember there was one that was the when I knew it was truly done for the moment, it was some rowing game. I don't know what it was called.
I remember the pedal copter.
You sit
was
in
similar to that.
you
have a
sit
partner.
in a boat. Yeah,
Oh,
and
wow.
you could do 2-player, and you rowed as
Yeah.
fast as you could, and then one person could stop, and the other. And I'm just sitting here going, "This is where we're at." Okay,
So-
all right. Well, there we go.
I may have won the GameWorks tournament on that game.
There you go.
I have no idea what it's called.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
It's like adventure or something. I don't know.
But
I remember.
you're going down the rapids and stuff.
Yeah, they
It's-
had that.
it's-
They had a
it's kooky.
downhill bicycling game.
But that was all they could do.
They
right?
were-
They had to compete with, you
And they were all
have
bad.
to come here to do this. And kind
Right.
of thing,
At that
so.
point, if you threw a competition, I mean, I'm still this way. If you throw a competition on anything, then competition sounds fun to me.
Right.
Win or lose. So yeah,
But would you
the
pay
stupid-
$2 to do it again? That's the question. That's really what it comes down to.
only if they're offering Cowboy season tickets if I win at this, and that's what had happened. And I was like, well, I got 2 days to learn this, so I'll figure it out.
Nice.
So yeah, that, and then I never played it again.
Uh,
Yeah, that era was a bit dark, and honestly, like DDR was the shining star of that era.
it was.
Like it was the good game
Yeah.
mixed in with all the junk.
Yeah, it was all these games about physical activity, and DDR was the one that stuck it out because it was simple.
It was simple,
And-
and it obviously has catchy music.
Yeah, right.
It's compelling to watch someone play DDR at, I would say, a mid to mid-high level.
Oh yeah. Well, we got to see
Once you
that.
get to high level, it's just like weird
You're
tap
sitting on the
dancing and
bar and-
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I'm way less interested in that than at just sub that level.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
got,
actually-
got to see a lot of that at Acon a couple weekends ago.
Exactly.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, that was
Yeah. We
fun.
actually talked about that on the podcast too. It just
Awesome.
seeing people just kind of hold the bar and kind of tap dance their way through it,
Yeah.
and not even tap dance. I mean, it just they might as well be pressing a keyboard with their feet. But I remember back in those early days, the days that we're talking about, watching people do fully choreographed routines on the pads, and
Yeah, that was interesting.
it was interesting to watch. People were losing a lot of weight.
Yeah.
Yeah,
stuff.
it was good times. It's a good game in my opinion. DDR, although it did mark the. I don't know. I feel like it gets unfairly maligned. And I know
Yeah.
you feel that way too. Like
do.
it is a very good marker of like this is the time when arcades went away.
Right,
And here's
right.
DDR. And DDR is the only game you would look at because you could not bear to look at those stupid ticket
Well,
games.
you couldn't even hear
the rowing
anything else.
games.
That
Yeah.
was the loudest thing in the entire place,
that
and it's
too.
just like, oh, here comes somebody. They just chunked.
Oh come on!
$2
Shoot
in here, and
shoot
they're gonna-
outside the screen to reload.
Right, that too. Reload. That was the thing.
Yeah.
Now, Light Gun games did pretty good towards the end, but DDR really was.
Aside from
was
DDR, though,
that
you
big
had
one.
all the other rhythm games that were pretty cool. To
Yeah,
some
but
degree
DDR
or
was
other.
really like
But DDR was
the
number
leader.
one
Right.
rhythm
Yeah.
game by far.
Because that
And it's
also
the only
brought in
one
the
still
arcade
around.
versions of like Guitar Hero and things like that.
But you had Guitar Freaks and Drum Mania and Keyboard
Right.
Mania and Beat Mania and
Poppin' music,
sure,
which we have here
that
right
here
now.
finally. A rhythm game on the floor at Free Play. Who
Yeah.
would have known?
So you're running the Soul Calibur releases, the Tekken. Did you have a Tekken Tag tournament?
I'm pretty sure we did. Yeah, I don't remember.
Oh wow.
Man, it was all a blur.
Did a guy named Tree win that? Tree was in Grand Prairie. You wouldn't have won
No, probably not.
that. That was a.
We didn't really talk it up beyond a piece of paper on the front door. You know what I mean? Like, hey, we're doing this on Saturday. You know?
Hope you guys show
So,
up.
Yeah.
If not, that makes us
Please
be
come
able
play
to go
the game.
home
Yeah, it was
sooner.
fun.
So you're running those tournaments in the days as consoles are overtaking arcades, and shortly after that, I believe Arthur, you have some thoughts on the competitive gaming of Arlington in the Six Flags Mall, right?
Yes. So we used to play games at this arcade that was over in Irving, and before then at Valley View Mall, Animation Town. It left Irving and I think went to Fort Worth, but in a limited capacity. And for a year or so, there were just no arcade tournaments. And there was a player named Lynn who went by Shoryuken and tournament gamer tag of Hustle Lynn. And he had an arcade at Six Flags Mall.
Shoryuken is the major Street Fighter, I would say 2D fighter fighting game website of yesteryear. It's still around, but
It's
like
still around, but I
the
don't even know if
forums
the forum
aren't.
is there at all.
Yeah.
The forum was like the bustling scene for a good 15 years, it feels like.
Yes, but Facebook eventually overtook it, and Shoryuken is a ghost town if it still exists.
Yeah.
Either way, so Lynn's Arcade, which may have been called Arcade, I think, most of the games, like
Original.
over half of the games, were turned off. and he had a lot of stuff, but you couldn't play Champion Edition, you couldn't play Ghosts and Goblins, you couldn't play most of the games because they were turned off because they didn't work. Meanwhile, he would host tournaments, and these tournaments would take place in the back rooms. There were a couple back rooms, and you'd come in, you'd bring a stick, you'd get in admission free if you brought a television and a PlayStation.
An arcade stick. Just to clarify.
Yeah, you bring
not an actual.
No.
Bring a stick.
like a joystick. Now,
Nice.
this was kind of in the dark era between the release of Third Strike and the release of Street Fighter 4, where there weren't a whole lot of fighting games coming out, and it was really hard to get a joystick. So when Tekken 5 was first released, there was a limited edition Tekken 5 that came with a Hori Tekken 5 themed Real Arcade Pro, the wrap joystick.
Nice.
And it was a good stick, and I bought one. $100 for the game that I was going to buy anyway for $50, and a joystick. That was an incredibly good deal. Well, just about everyone else in town bought them also. Fry's had 1 million of them. You could buy them at every GameStop. Did you sell any of those?
Quite a few, yeah.
There you go. Well, so everyone went to this tournament, and everyone had the exact same
It's
joystick.
the one where everybody wiped off Jin's face, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, with your left
I had
wrist.
2 of those, yes.
Yeah.
Wave dashing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Jin and Asuka, I think, were on the...
Yes. Sorry. So everybody's taking them to Lynn's Arcade at Six Flags Mall.
Yes, and sure enough, at every single tournament, there were 3 or 4 that I remember over the course of a few years, some people would be like, where's my joystick at the end of the night? Where's my joystick? These joysticks were just maliciously stolen somehow. We never solved this caper, but
go to Fry's
somewhere...
are $20.
Yeah, no, later on, they were on sale at Fry's for $20, and they were doing a clearance 8 months down the line, and I bought a couple and just gave them away because I still had mine. But I eventually lost mine in one of those tournaments also, and it was a shame because you could not get a good joystick once that particular deal was gone.
Wow.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
But-
it wasn't until Mad Catz brings the industry back, right?
Street Fighter 4.
Yeah.
But the most interesting thing, my fondest memory of the Lynn's Arcade tournament, right? So Marvel 2 was actually run on a pair of Naomi pedestal setups, right? And I was really looking forward to this Marvel 2 tournament. We get there, and it only has the original characters unlocked. We didn't know the access code for unlocking the characters that you do from the service menu, so we ended up taking turns mashing the quarter button for what must have been an hour and a half to
Wow.
put
Dear.
enough credits to unlock either Magneto or Sentinel, who are the last 2 characters.
Wow.
So, of course, if it was Bone Wolverine or Servbot or something, no one would have cared. But it was Magneto and Sentinel last. And Storm was pretty far up there, too, so you actually had to go all the way to the end. Whew.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
waiting
that-
for characters to unlock in Marvel. That was a thing I remember.
Yeah, that was the same thing in Tekken Tag that we talked about as well. It's just before DLC was a thing, but they
Right.
sort of had the concept of time released or.
Well,
or-
a reason for you to come back next week.
Yeah.
and
So
kinda
so
see
they
what
would
else is
build it in, and that was all well and good upon release when every arcade got it at the exact same time or relatively soon after. But yeah, in 2019, when you're trying to unlock it for Tuesday night fights, in the
Oh, man.
newly restored Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and everybody's hunting online for a code.
Right.
Or I think what was the game that it was?
No, we did Marvel 2. We had to, Johnny and I had to unlock it for the East versus West tournament just before Spring Series.
Well, and you also had the Game 4 Spring Series, King of Fighters.
Oh, King of Fighters 11!
Yeah.
Which you still don't have, right?
We finally got all of them unlocked on one of the copies. The other one didn't ever unlock more than the first 2. But it took 800 play
Kept
hours.
deleting Arthur's game save.
It took 800 play hours for the first 2 characters. I
Oh
want
my
to say
goodness.
1,400 for the 5th one, the final one, and the 4th one was actually used in the tournament. So I'm glad that we took the time to start unlocking those characters.
Wow.
That was kind of terrifying to me. Just because there physically weren't enough hours between now and Spring Series to unlock them twice over.
So who dominated the Tekken 5 I'm gonna steal your joystick era at Lynn's Arcade?
It's an interesting question. I recall
Was it your
Ice doing
roommate?
well.
Okay,
no,
Ice.
because he never showed up.
That's a shock.
Jop did live in town by the end of that period, but he did not go to tournaments. Not
Jop,
worth his effort.
Yeah, and Jop, if you don't know Eric, he is originally from
Georgia,
yeah, Atlanta. The Atlanta scene. He emerged during the Tekken Tag days, my days. I was actually there when he first came to Texas. Moved later, but he may be the greatest fighting game player ever in the DFW area. He's certainly in the top 5 list. If he's not, I don't like your list.
I would say he is, in fact, the best fighting game player in town by a very large margin.
He took our Mortal Kombat 3 tournament.
Yes, he did.
Pretty easily, actually.
Pretty easily with basically no practice.
Right.
It just...
He's had multiple top 8s at EVO. The only other Dallas player that's ever done that, I guess Bucktooth wasn't really a Dallas player when he was taking top 8s at EVO. And aside from him, I'm thinking no one.
I've mentioned it on the podcast before, but he did the thing that I've never really seen before or since, which is travel across the country by yourself, go to a tournament, win that tournament. When he went from coast to coast, won in LA. I can't imagine. You don't go to somebody else. Like, you bring your whole posse with you, and you have your own support group built in, and you all stay at the same hotel room together, and then you show how good you are. But just going all alone, you don't know anybody. Everybody hates you because you're just
some guy that's not from around here.
Yeah, some doofus from Atlanta, and we're going to show you how our Southern California ways are better. And even if you do happen to beat us, we're going to talk about the legends of how good we were in Southern California because we're the commentators for the rest of eternity.
Yeah, Alex Valle is still the international champion of, I want to say it was Tekken Tag, but it might have been Tekken 3. That was at Sunnyvale Golfland that no one knew about if you weren't going to Sunnyvale Golfland.
Right.
And it's like that same year.
Yeah, the official American Tekken Tag winners were Valle got first. I remember. I want to say it was MIC that got second and Shafi that got third, all from Southern California. But although Namco did bring in players from regionals, the regionals were, I want to say, in San Antonio for Texas, and so all around. So if you knew, you knew. It was kind of early in the game's life cycle. It was early enough that Alex Valle won Tekken Tag tournament, which you can ask him about his history with Tekken Tag tournament. He quit soon thereafter. It was sort of like wave dashing and sidestep canceling and all that stuff became known, and the applications of it became known, and he was off to bigger and better 2D fighting things. But he was playing big and going to Japan, playing Capcom fighters anyway. So no loss for him.
No, he's an incredible player with a fantastic history, but him being the Tekken champion is still kind of a hilarious.
I don't think he's ever been to Arlington though. We could probably help with that, but
that might be interesting.
Could be cool.
Have you ever played him?
I have not. No.
A couple times. You?
Yes, in 3, Third Strike, and 4.
Gotcha. I played him in, of course, Tekken Tag back in the day when I would go out to Los Angeles. Although he was just playing casuals back then, not competing in that game anymore. It was weird because he was, he's the national champion. He's the name everybody knows, Cali Power.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see. What am I forgetting? Of course, Free Play Arlington opens. That should probably be mentioned in the Arlington competitive scene.
Yes.
We opened we just celebrated our 2-year anniversary here, and more than anybody. What is it? Got quoted in the paper the week of Arlington's release. What did you think?
That's cool.
That was fun.
What did you think when Arlington first opened? Because you're the Arlington guy.
Well, yeah. I mean, I live very close, and when I heard about it opening, I was like, I need information. What, where, when? I'll be there.
An arcade. They're back.
Here we go. And so
I was the same guy in Richardson a year before.
Yeah. So I joined the Facebook group, found out about that, and then heard about the beta opening, and I was like, darn, I wasn't invited. Whatever. And then when it actually opening, day one opening, I came by after work, and just hung out for hours and just played everything.
At the time, they would refer to you as Tekken Matt.
Yeah, well, so we had a Tekken Tag machine here, and unfortunately, it was on the oddly shaped MK4 button layout, where you have to do 10 strings like this.
No comment.
Yeah, right. But we still played it, and it was still fun. And because it's Tekken, I just want to play Tekken. I don't care. Give me a dance pad. I'll play Tekken on a dance pad. I just want to do it.
I have indeed played Tekken on a dance pad.
Right, I've tried it too. It's funny.
Standing
yeah.
forward with Ogre broken.
Right. So
on a dance pad.
So with the few basics that I know, I go with my team and I just started playing against people, and I had forgotten that arcades are a place where you can play a person and then they'll be like, oh, he beat me, I'm gonna leave, and it's like, oh, well, do you want to play again? Like I was constantly like, it's a free game, we don't have to, it's no quarters, you guys can we can do a set of 10 or 5 or whatever you want to do. Some people would keep playing over and over and over, which is great. And then one of those people I realized that we're playing over and over and over against, I didn't know who they were, but this is how I got to know them. One of those people was Orlando,
right.
the manager of Free Play Arlington, and the other one I believe was Carlos, who
the Grill Master,
the Grill Master from Richardson. And so those two guys, and that's whenever Orlando said, "Man, you're really good at this. You should come to our little tournament we have, this little Tuesday night fights thing." And he hands me a little business card, and I was like, "All right, cool, I'll come to that."
Good on him.
I had already planned on coming to that, but
fair enough.
I was here to practice. But yeah, so I came up Tuesday night, and I was super nervous because I'm like, man, all these people are here to play Tekken. This is crazy. This is weird. This is like a strange throwback. Like I didn't feel like I was in my own skin. It was just very weird to be at a Tekken Tag tournament in an arcade.
That's the thing
so
about
cool.
the Free Play Arcade community group and their tournaments. They remind you of the old school, but they're something else. Like
right.
It's a reimagining of the arcade scene.
Yes.
We do a lot of team tournaments. That one wasn't team at the time.
No, it wasn't. Yeah.
Do it on oddball games. We don't hit the same game all the time. It was. I definitely wanted to be because I was responsible for them almost exclusively back then. I wanted to make sure that we appealed to as many new players as possible because you can't afford to turn away players from a 20-year-old game or a 25-year-old game.
And you weren't even streaming then, were you? You were just recording the entire tournament?
I believe that's correct.
Yeah.
And I do have the recording of it all, although I may have streamed it. Actually, I think I was streaming that one.
I just thought it was amazing. Like, I show up, and this guy Chris is standing here with a laptop right next to him. It's still in the line. The arcade machine was still in the line, but he had the laptop on another machine.
Oh, man. Arthur knows nothing about those days.
He had one camera pointed at the screen and the other camera on the screen pointing at the players. And I was like, well, that's how you do it. Yeah. I just thought, well, that's amazing. That's how you do it. So,
there was a very rigid rule set given to me initially when it came to streaming, which was we don't move the games at all. They are where they are. You have to stream them from where they are. Yeah. They has to be in public and still open. Yeah. And the game has to be accessible, and every game around it has to be accessible, which is...
That sounds reasonable for just getting started, though.
Barely possible.
Right.
It involved a lot of back pain from me as I'm twisting around, holding cameras myself as they fall apart. Orlando helped me with that back in the day.
Oh yeah.
He was the first producer of Tuesday Night Fights.
Nice.
Way back when. Nice. And I would make sure to record them all. So yeah, Tekken Tag. We actually chose Tekken Tag as our first game for Free Play Arlington because Mortal Kombat 2 was having a monitor problem. That would have been the call.
Right.
And
I think you went with the right choice there.
There was no Street Fighter game at the time, like at the initial release. This was before even Third Strike hit the floor of Arlington.
Like I look around Free Play Arlington today, and it looks very full with machines.
Yeah.
There was a time that it was not. It had maybe
before
2/3 of
like,
as much. Yeah.
They didn't even have curtains over there.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So glare issues. Like it was very much the beta test period of Free Play Arlington.
Yeah. But yeah, going to that first Tuesday Night Fights, it was awesome. It was a great experience. I felt like this is a community of people that does this all the time. This is insane.
Yeah.
I could totally get down with this. And I ended up taking third place because you took first, and I think Chase Cole took second. And Chase Cole was using a technique that I was not used to anymore.
Sidestepping?
No. The mix-up game with.
I just remember
Sakura,
him doing Oh no, you're talking about so June has
my bad, not Sakura.
Not an infinite combo, but an infinite attack stream that is pre-programmed into the game.
And it was not pre-programmed into me before coming that night, so I fell prey to that a couple times. But yeah, no, it was really fun, and I just picked Paul and Law, and I was doing actual like chain combos, tag combos, and 10 strings and just silly stuff.
We even have footage from back in the day.
It was fun. It was super fun. But I mean, the fact that I was really nervous about it, but then I start fighting a whole bunch of Hwoarongs and Eddie Gordos, and I'm like, I
remember how to down parry.
Yeah, we can work with this. So that was fun. But then I realized it's about the community. It's about the fame of winning is your picture on the site and just acknowledgement
Well, I
kind of
felt
like welcome to the family type of thing. It's really fun.
Yeah, and I felt like you had like the biggest like crowd reactions that day. I say crowd, we're all huddled around this machine in the middle of the line, but you were doing just the programmed in tag combos between Paul and Law.
Right, because I always thought they were so cool.
Yeah. I mean, they were.
Yeah.
And everybody was going off as you would bring 3 characters into the screen for a 2-player game.
The hardest thing to practice though was the tag slide in, like attacking off of a tag, either the forward dive or the slide, because the timing on that's very specific, and so that's what I had come up there before to practice. And
gotcha.
Yeah,
it's that neutral. It's that neutral that always gets you in Tekken.
Forward neutral, then the button.
Right.
Yeah, it's so awkward.
Yeah, but, it's not quite the Dragon Punch motion. It's forward neutral, down forward.
Right.
Don't forget the neutral, or the game says nope, not for you. Go back to Street Fighter.
Yeah.
And so we started there. We made an effort to include Arlington with all of our competitive endeavors. We brought Puzzle Night over. I don't know if you played in those.
Yes. Yeah. I played in a few of those.
And then maybe, I don't know, a year into Free Play Arlington's existence, we started branching into pinball, and there's so much more room here at Free Play Arlington that pinball, like, there are pinball machines. There's, I want to say 8 to 10. I can't remember the exact number.
10 sounds right to me.
In Free Play Richardson, and I know Corey prides himself on putting just as many pinball machines as he can possibly get into that more discreetly sized Free Play Richardson building. Denton has the same number as Richardson, which is absurd considering how little space is in Free Play Denton. It's only $6 to get in. There's 55 games, and 10 of them are well-maintained pinball machines. Well, Arlington blows that away because you have more than both of those combined.
We fluctuate between 19 and 21, somewhere in there.
Yeah. So with that level of pinball machines, with you having a competitive background, with you in Orlando doing the tech work, I felt confident that I could run pinball tournaments here, given all the caveats. We had to do it in 4 hours.
Yep.
We had to be open, and it has to be open to the public as well. So we found a tournament format, 3 strikes format. We actually started doing it. And was the Free Play Arlington pinball tournament your first pinball tournament?
Yes. Yeah. Honestly, I had never given a second thought to pinball before coming here, and then like I got to make sure it works.
Right.
So I mean, if I can't hit that shot, how can I expect you to hit that shot?
Right.
And there might be something wrong with the flipper. I don't know. So I better figure out how this works. And vicariously, I just started to get a skill down of, okay, I understand pinball now. Now, I may not understand every machine,
right?
Because pinball machines are like fighting games, where there are specific combos you can do to get massive points and hit this shot, activate this mode, things like that. And going through all those modes is always the goal of a pinball game. But yeah, I had no idea, had absolutely no idea. Now I feel like I have half an idea. Like, I try to have more conversations with people about how certain machines work on the game side of it, but as far as the tech side, that's gotten a lot easier lately too. So.
Has it warmed you over to pinball at all? Do you feel? Yeah. How do you feel about pinball?
I like it a lot.
Like the tech Matt Johnson surely it's a love-hate relationship because
it's because I can kind of see through the table. If you want to put it that way, I can kind of be like, this flipper's being weird. I need to look at it. And so if I'm ever somewhere else and I see a pinball machine, I kind of want to see how well it's running more than I want to see like what kind of score I can get. And that's just that's just the tech side of me. But at the same time, learning the
basically when I do that, I
good.
just walk into the new place in a new town. I'm like, oh no. That's pretty much. I am spoiled for sure.
Right.
But the gamer side of you?
The gamer side of me, yes. I've definitely gotten more into pinball. More interested. More like watching people's techniques and stuff and seeing how they do things. And that's what's been amazing to me is like the pinball community here. The 5 to 10 hardcore players that we have every single Pinball Monday, those are the people I look forward to seeing the most because I like seeing them grow. Like when Shannon won her championship.
Oh, that was such a great moment for all of us.
Finally, because she's been talking smack for 10 months of this stuff. I mean, she's been going crazy over this, and so she finally got it. And oh man, it's just those kind of moments are fantastic, and just watching the techniques people learn. And I mean, because it's literally, you told me once a long time ago that pinball is more like juggling than any other skill.
Yes.
And once I started thinking of it as juggling, you're having to just keep these balls in momentum and keep them going, put them where you want them. that really made me start thinking of it that way and start reacting that way. So
Yeah, if you're controlling the pinball, then
Yeah.
you're controlling the table, and then the rule set is you can eventually get the score you need
Right.
if you just keep the ball in play long enough and under control. Because if you hit that cool shot and it rebounds directly into the drain,
Yeah.
then that's probably not as advantageous as just playing the game for longer.
right, and the fact that pinball predates arcades
By 50 years,
right,
yeah.
by a very long time. It also, I don't know. It is a much more. It has some. There's something very honest about pinball. Of like, if the ball went there, it's because you didn't stop it.
Yeah.
It's because you didn't do anything about it. You let it go there, or you put it there. So just own it and get better on your next game, and keep on trucking. And I see a lot of people give up on pinball when they're right at that moment where the only thing stopping them is from progressing. Might just be ego,
Right.
or it might be something where they're like, I actually heard somebody one day screaming at a pinball machine saying, "This is all RNG." And I thought to myself, okay, number one, that's not what RNG means.
It's all physics is what it is.
It's all physics. But then the number two, I thought, are you going to say the same thing about a baseball player who can hit that ball over the fence
Right.
like nine times
That's
out of 10?
the same skill exactly right there.
Right, exactly. You're actually looking for timing and having the eye for the ball. And I mean, it's exactly the same thing, but just on such a minute scale that's so easy accessible to anybody that they can all come do it. So
Yeah.
super fun.
Now we've started doing those tournaments here. We started them like a year ago, and they've
Yeah.
been building in momentum. Like you said, there's like 5 or 10 players that just come out for every single one of them.
Right.
There's probably another 20 of them that are pretty regular to
Yeah.
hit probably every other one. And yeah, they are super friendly. We love supporting each other as we learn, because we're all, those of us that I'm describing are all really new to pinball in general. Some of them, I know Brennan, who got second yesterday.
Yeah.
Young guy. He's in his 20s.
Yeah.
Certainly doesn't even remember like the Sega generation, the generation we're talking about with
Right.
Tekken Tag and that era. That's before his time.
Well, and isn't his pinball interest only about 2 or 3 years old? Like he's only been playing for not too
Something
long?
like that. Yeah. I remember he blew up the scene on the Total Nuclear Annihilation Day.
Yeah.
And he was this guy putting BRS into the machine and threatening to win our little TNA competition.
Yeah.
So super nice guy, incredibly helpful with our community and helpful like in supporting coming out to Arlington. So the free play pinball machine scene is based entirely in Arlington. We've run one single pinball tournament in Denton, but we ran a big $5,000 tournament just a few months ago here, literally right where we're sitting, and had every great player we could drag out here. So it's all based in Arlington. It's because you keep up the machines and fight through whatever it was that Pirates did when we
Man.
Oh,
put those on the floor.
Triggered.
you hear about that in our
So yeah, I think,
podcast about pinball, I believe.
Right.
yeah,
yeah.
and I just think that deserves some mention in the talk about the competitive gaming here in Arlington. Pinball is here. And
Yeah.
it's really here to stay.
Pinball's here. Third Strike's here.
We had
Most
the best
fighting
player.
games we have are here.
Yeah, we had one of the best
keep
players in the
Corral
world
marking the
here.
Wolves out here. I mean, we if it's
I love
worth
that game.
competing
We need
on,
more
we
guard.
try to keep it on the floor. We try to keep it up and going. So
So you heard it here, Karate Champ never leaving the floor of Free Play Arlington.
not if I have anything to say about
So yeah, we should start wrapping it up though. Yeah, Karate Champ later tonight. I'm gonna win that one,
I'm
guaranteed.
so pumped about Karate Champ.
Also,
tournament.
Windjammers. Not exactly a fighting
Windjammers
game, but
is fun.
yeah, I don't know. A great game.
So let's see. I'm Chris Delp, the community liaison of Free Play.
I'm Arthur Williams, the other community liaison.
I'm Matt Johnson, Tech Free Play Arlington.
Is that all?
Ancient Tech.
He's Tech and
Just
Matt.
Tech.
Tech and Matt. We know who
That
this
helped
is.
in the interview process.
You're
Tech and yeah.
You're not fooling us. But yeah, I wanted to tell you again, subscribe wherever you're listening to it, be it iTunes, YouTube, wherever. The order number 42 beckons you to hit the notification bell icon on YouTube. That's good times. We will join you next time where we will be ranting and raving about something. Maybe we'll be talking bad about GameStop again, not with Matt Johnson. That was a fun podcast I don't want to repeat.
That's all right.
Nah, it's okay. We will repeat anyway. All right. Love you guys. See you later.
Have a good day.
Bye.